to BSI, the podcast with Benny Philhopper, Dowsy and Arco Para. Enjoy!
I love Settlers of Catan. It is by far my favorite game. That is number one by a country mile. I think I can see the Revolution making a good run.
I could see Red Bulls in their kind of their style.
Okay, let's see. Now your bias is showing.
Kansas City and Portland, you know.
Welcome to BSI, the podcast. Sal, we are on episode, what is it, dude?
19, I think, right?
Is it 19?
19, yeah.
We got a good one today. We got a talker, folks. Jimmy Conradinho.
Yeah, Jimmy's someone that I played with for probably 3 weeks at Chivas USA before I got traded, but he left a lasting impression on me. Good teammate, good locker room guy, and he's a talker, like you said, Benny.
Yeah, he'll have some stories, to say the least. So I'm excited to have him on. We'll see if we can get him to plead the fifth, even though, again, we don't have Ike for this episode. We'll see how long he's out, but plan for Ike probably missing most shows until the MLS's back tournament ending. So with that, I'd like to say that I had an awesome time on the Patreon. I did a Zoom call this last weekend with a lot of the Patreons, and it was an Ask Me Anything. And they came up with some really good questions. I almost had a heated battle with MJ over referees. It was fun, dude. These guys ask good questions, and all you guys that are, craving extra content, make sure to check out our Patreon, check out our website for, all the exclusive stuff that we have on there. And it's been fun, man. I think our fans are awesome.
Yeah, we love our fans, and thanks everyone for supporting us really throughout this. But let's get to the interview portion.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, without further ado, Jimmy Conradinho, welcome to the show, bro. Welcome, Jimmy Conradinho, to the podcast. If you guys can see him out there, he's barely wearing a T-shirt.
That's how I roll now, right? I'm in a midlife crisis, Benny. All right, just leave me alone.
Dang, that's a good midlife crisis to be in. You've got you're a coach, you're a technical director, you're doing media, you got a boom mic in front of you. I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but you're more prepared than we are.
Well, I'd like to think that I try to put myself in a good position to have success. That's my whole thing. My whole career has been around that, just anticipating and putting people in good spots and all that good stuff. I was a center back. That's what I do, Benny. It's what I do.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for allowing us on your show. It's really, it's an honor to be on your show. So
I'm just filling in for Ike. Let's be honest. It's the BSJ podcast.
This is the second time you've been on our show. Like, you came to the Benny Philhopper show when we did that in Kansas City in 2014, and now it's your second time on it. You're just you're one for wherever we go, you're coming with us.
Every 6 years.
I appreciate that. I mean, I want Sal back on the piano or whatever he was doing.
Yeah, the
music
keyboard.
relief.
The disconnected keyboard that he had.
Yeah. It's battery operated, guys. Come on.
All right. Well, now that we've reacquainted after 6 years' time, Jimmy, I know you know how this goes. You got the quick hitters to get you warmed up, even though it looks like you're lathered up already. But we'll give you some quick hitters, easy questions to get you warmed up. We'll go into the main interview. We're actually going to do something a little bit different this time, because typically we just ask about what your career has been like, what you've done, but we're going to ask some questions about what's going on in the soccer world right now, as it's maybe starting back up here. We'll see in the U.S. So we'll ask about your opinions on that, and then at the end we'll do plead the fifth. We don't have Ike with us, but we do have Ike's interrogation. Me and Sal will take our we'll try our luck to try and get you to plead. And if you don't plead in this 5 questions, you get to ask us any question you'd like.
Great. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, first you have to answer all 5 of them, bro. All right. Are we ready for this?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
First question in quick hitters is actually about the MLS's back tournament. And there's been a few hiccups so far. We haven't started the tournament yet, and there's been a few hiccups. What do you think has been the biggest disappointment in this buildup?
I would say that guys are getting sick after they got to the bubble. You'd like to think that would have been sorted out prior. I don't know where they're picking it up. Were they already infected prior to leaving? They had tests there. I don't know. It just seems like that part of it should have been a little bit more well thought out. With the team pulling out, and I'm sure maybe 1 or 2 more. It's just Yeah, it's disappointing. And you see the NWSL, there's other examples of success.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the execution isn't as high of a standard as I think we needed it to be.
Yeah.
Do you think just the bubble format in general is a good format? I mean, if you look at what the USL is doing, where we're starting up in a week, traveling to Salt Lake. My team is for the first game. Obviously, there hasn't been a hiccup yet because none of the teams have really gone anywhere. Do you see that as being a better way of going about it? Or I mean, because to me, it's like you go into this bubble. If one or two guys have it, it's getting spread into that bubble. So for me, it's a hard decision. But.
It is hard, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, given that you're living it still, how you feel about the USL's decision to kind of move forward despite now this second wave that's starting to
I mean,
hit the country.
Yeah, there's been players on teams that have had it. Obviously, we haven't been a part of it, but I don't know. I mean, if the opposing team has it, right, and there's a few guys that had to stay behind, at least that hopefully they tested a few days before your game, because it's very tough to get an accurate read up until that hour before the game that everyone is coronavirus free. But I mean, I don't necessarily feel scared or concerned for getting it or anything like that, but I feel like I would feel that though if I was in a bubble, to be honest. If I was in a bubble around
right?
guys,
the bubble, so this is obviously from an outsider's perspective, but the bubble, the whole thing is to keep everybody in the bubble safe. The worst thing that can happen in the bubble is if you have people that are sick, because then the whole bubble is unsafe. So
the concept is just done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the concept makes sense if you can keep everybody inside it safe and
I guess
clear of COVID.
No, I agree with all that. I would say my biggest fear is, or at least on paper, it was supposed to be this tournament was going to lead into the regular season again.
Right.
Yeah.
But now I don't think they can, right? Well, unless USL leads the way.
Shows that it's good. Yeah.
And now when the Bundesliga got started, I actually came out publicly and did on my Soccer Minute thing that I put on Twitter and Instagram and hammered them, because I just felt like it was very arrogant for them to think they could control the uncontrollable. But to their credit, because they're super efficient, those Germans, I'm playing the stereotypes, but they're nailing it. They kind of showed the way, and I since put out a video that apologized to them because they executed it at a high level. And I thought, cool, well, now everybody can kind of follow their lead. But the bubble thing wasn't something they were doing. And now we're
also Germany as a country didn't have that spike in cases, so in that sense it was maybe easier to control. But
sure. Yeah, and Florida probably wasn't the best state to have a
No,
bubble. I think we're seeing with the NWSL, right, in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Is doing a lot better of a job.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully it goes on without any further hitches, although that seems unlikely, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's almost become, for the players, I'm sure it's something completely different, but for the fans, it's almost like, you want to see soccer, but now it's almost like, well, what the hell is going to happen next? Let me check Twitter to see what else is going wrong over there, So, we hope that everybody stays safe, but it really will be interesting to see, how this pans out. And like you said, what happens after, is MLS going to continue? Is the season going to get canceled? What's going to happen? So we'll see. All right. Next question. I'm going to Sal, you take this one, cause I knew you were going to bring it up.
Yeah. So, and you love this game so much that you even talked about it before we started recording, but I consider you somewhat of a founding father of Settlers of Catan. I think you've spread the game out. It's probably considered an MLS board game at this point. I just want to know if you could rank your top 3 board games.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
So I appreciate that. That's a big compliment. I did get it going when I was playing, and there used to be an online competitive thing where players from all around the world would play. And I'd like to state for the record on this podcast that I was #1 in the world for 5 days, baby.
No.
That is what's up. One of my proudest achievements. I've done a lot of things in my life, but that is up there.
Is this a fact?
Facts. I can get verified from Jack Jewsbury, from Will Hesmer, Davey Arnaud, who are all doing it with me. They saw me. I was #1. Now, the thing was, you always had to play #2. And I just dodged #2 for like 5 days, so I could be #1 for 5 days.
The heavyweight bout, dude.
It was amazing. I ended up losing it, and it was fine. But I got there, and it was very exciting for me. I love Settlers of Catan. It is by far my favorite game. That is number one by a country mile. I would say number two, I Ticket to Ride is okay. I don't mind that game so much. I think it lacks a little bit of the nuance and subtlety, which I really appreciate.
I'm gonna write
Settlers.
I've never heard of Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, Ticket to Ride's good. I would say, I'm Risk is old school. I like the vibe of Risk. I feel like Settlers is
World domination. Is
yeah,
your
Risk
style.
versus yeah. I mean, Settlers is kind of a Risk versus Monopoly kind of mashup, in some ways.
Yeah.
And I like that the game is always a little bit different. You can win in a lot of different ways.
So what's your go-to strategy, real quick, on Settlers? Like, what are you doing that got you to be ranked number one? Because it's a roll of the dice somewhat. So what's your go-to?
I mean, if you can get on ore and wheat, you
Okay.
put yourself in a good situation to get cities, and you can have a sheep one as well. Then you're getting development cards. If you can get a development card game going, you always put yourself in a good position to win. I actually played last night. Didn't have two resources, but had ore, wheat, and sheep, and somehow I got longest road, baby. I didn't even have wood, or yeah, it was unbelievable. So you get a couple of Monopoly cards, you get a road building, and you're on your way. So it's funny how that game works out, but yeah, I love it. Outside of that, though, I mean, you just have to be paying attention to what everybody else is trying to do. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. If you're just worried about your own game, you're going to lose.
Yeah,
So,
I got involved in Settlers, I think in 2014 with you, Sal, and
Yeah.
I consider myself a board game aficionado to some degree, but I never got really good at that game. Like I never fully, immersed myself in the strategy and played it enough to kind of figure out what's best and what's not good. So fortunately, I can't partake in this conversation of tactics too much. Lucky for you guys.
I feel bad for you, Benny.
I'll throw my favorite game in there.
Yeah, please
Probably
do.
most people don't know. It's called Partners, Danish game, unbelievable game. You play with 4 people. You play with a partner across from you. A little bit of luck, a lot of tactic, and by the look of Sal's face, I don't know if he enjoyed it as much as I do. But
Yeah, it was all right. It's no
What do you
Settlers.
compare it to?
It's no Settlers.
What
Yeah,
is-
so
it's no Settlers.
there's some
I mean,
comparison to Ludo, but Ludo is a little bit more luck, and
Candyland? Have
also
you ever played
it's
Candyland?
individual.
Yeah, I have. Shoots and
like
ladders.
Candyland. Yeah.
Yeah, just like Candyland, Sal. All right,
I'm
moving
writing
on.
that down. Partners. Okay, I'm gonna
Partners,
Go
great. It's hard to find though. By the way, you
Okay.
might actually have to import it from.
buy it in Danish. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Gotcha.
all right, last one, just a little funny one, or it can be serious. Depends how you want to take it. Rank these soccer podcasts. The Cooligans. 13 and Me. Have you heard of 13 and Me?
I have not.
That's Jermaine Jones. He has one come.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I did catch the first episode.
13 and Me.
Yeah.
Banter with Taylor Twellman. The State of the Union with Alexi Lalas, or old number one BSI the podcast.
Well,
Actually, got to rank them, so it's not
I'll rank
really
them. Yeah, sure. BSI podcast number 1. Number 2.
There we go.
That's why you have me on the show. Number 2, Cooligans. Number 3, Taylor Twellman's Banter. Number 4, probably Jermaine Jones. I feel like you just don't know. He's so unpredictable. Like, 1 minute talking sense, the other minute complete train wreck. I love that unpredictability. And then I'd say Alexi Lalas, number 5. I'm just not buying what he's selling these days.
All right. Well done. All right, you're through the quick hitters, by the way.
Phew.
I hope you're warm.
I'm stretching.
All right, first question in your interview. You've been a soccer player for, I don't even know how long. How long was your career? 15 years?
No. I got to
10?
12 and a half in
12 and a
MLS,
half.
and I played a year in the A-League with the San Diego Flash.
And
There
you
it
played
is.
in Poland, by the way. Let's not
I
forget.
did. I was on loan, though. That was at a time when MLS was loaning player. Well, I got to go alone for 5 months at Lech Poznan.
That's right. So 12 and a half, 13-year career. You've done now how many years in media?
Since 2000, yeah, I guess middle of 2011, almost 10 years. Whoa.
There you go.
Wow.
10 years in media.
God.
And now you're a coach / technical director. So you're opening up new doors in that regard. So I'm wondering first what your passion is now that obviously you've been retired for 10 plus years or close to 10 years, I
Sure.
guess. What your passion is long and short term, because I think I've had a conversation with you shortly about this. But what are you looking to do in the short term, long term? What do you see yourself doing, post 2026 World Cup and all that good stuff.
How long is this podcast? Because you guys know I'm a talker. You can't ask these big questions.
Dude, I've set up a few
What is
questions
life,
where you
Jimmy?
just
What is
go
life?
on any kind of tangent you want.
No, I appreciate that. So I'll say that my passion is in some ways being a fan. For so long when you're a player, and Sal's still living it, and Benny, you're just finishing your career, we had to be immersed in just being a player and all the sacrifices that come with that. And then when you get to go beyond that and you retire and you lose that identity and start to form a new one, I fell into this media rabbit hole, and it took me about a year to really jump in with both feet. I was still a little bit depressed, and my career ended. I retired due to concussion, so it wasn't my choice per se. But then fast forward to a year, and I'm at the Euros. I'm in Poland and I'm in Ukraine, and I'm getting drunk with fans and I'm getting paid for it. I was like, you know what? This is not a bad career. I could do this on a regular basis. This is a lot of fun. And so it really opened up the possibilities. And that's when YouTube was really starting to kick on, and vlogging and all that good stuff. And we got a lot of good feedback from that trip in particular, just to kind of show what it looked like to be a fan at that event. And it really started to open my eyes and the team that I was working with, Kick TV at the time, to all the possibilities. And that led to an incredible time at the World Cup in 2014 in Brazil. I went to 9 games in 8 different cities. I went swimming in the Amazon River. I just beyond.
Is that
what
safe?
No, it's not, but I had to do it anyway. So honestly, fun fact, the Amazon River, there's a spot where 2 of the big rivers meet to form. And one of them's side of it's brown and the other side of it's black. And on one side, it's 2 degrees hotter than the other side. So we went to the spot where you could see it. It's a trip. And I swam on both sides, and you can feel a difference. It's a trip. Anyway, I just wanted to say I did it. But imagine, and we took this like really skinny boat out in the middle of nowhere of this river, and like, where are we? When finally jumped in, and I made the guy that was the tour guy jump in first, because I was like, I don't know, I want to do this by myself. But imagine those types of opportunities. Like, you can't even fathom that could be a possibility of a career, and that you would get paid to go do all these fun things. And so, dude, I went to El Super Clasico between Boca and River at La Bombonera. I've been to El Clasico twice. Just unbelievable opportunities. And so it's hard to like,
Jimmy, real
give this
quick,
up.
Going off that, what's the coolest piece of content you were able to capture, other than obviously when you came to Zizos FC and it didn't air, but other than that, like, really cool piece that you did, what was the best content you created?
I think one of my favorite moments was we went to Milan. It was for the Milan Derby, but before the Milan Derby happened was a Champions League game, Barcelona versus AC Milan. Now, Milan won 2-0. For whatever reason, one of the main people at Milan just brought us in and treated us like family. I got all access everywhere. I was in the mix zone, and not one Barcelona player stopped for me, and I started heckling them. Okay, so I started heckling them.
In
Messi
English
walks
or
by.
Spanish?
No, English. Yeah, they probably can't understand me anyway. The dumb gringo, So I'm just yelling at him, "Oh, you're a handsome man. Why don't you stop?" And whatever I could come up with, I just started heckling him. And the Italian journalists were like, "This guy's crazy, but we kind of like him." So they finally got, oh man, what's his name? Oh, who was the coach at the time? He was, oh man, I can't believe I just had a blank. Anyway, the manager ends up stopping. They guilt him into stopping and talking with me, and it was awesome. So fast forward a year, we're in Sao Paulo for the World Cup, and this guy comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "Hey, we loved this piece that you did at the Milan or the Champions League game." We're like, "Oh, cool, man. Thank you so much." And we're kind of moving on to the next thing. And then he kept following us. It turns out he runs content for UEFA, and he wanted to it was like, it's just a trip. So that piece of content meant a lot to us because, and I'll say this, Sal, because you guys are doing it now too. We did what we wanted to do. We were doing it to be ourselves. We weren't trying to be anybody else. And the fact that resonated with some of the highest people that were making decisions about whatever was really cool for us, and gave us more confidence to continue to be ourselves, because that was clearly working in some capacity. So I felt like that was a watershed moment. But I will say, going to Super Clasico, being at La Bombonera for River Plate versus Boca Juniors that's life-changing. And if anybody has a chance to go to do that, even if it's not on your bucket list, put it on your bucket list, because it's unbelievable.
I was lucky enough to go to that specific game actually with the I think it was with the U18s when Thomas Wrongden maybe was actually it was U20s, but it was like an early trip before the World Cup. We went there and I think I was 18, but I didn't really know like, what I couldn't appreciate it for what it was at
Right.
that time, but
Yeah, that's a
it's
crazy
pretty
stadium,
incredible.
dude.
Yeah.
That's a real wall, out of all the walls. You hear like some from the Dortmund Stadium and, some other stadium, but the Bombonera at Boca Junior Stadium is ridiculous. So, and by the way, me and Sal and Ike, obviously not here with us today. We've done, something similar where we kind of started something where we just did it what we like to do, except no higher ups yet have reached out to us. So no watershed moment yet, but
you got to give it time. Stay true to yourself. Now, to finish your question, Benny, this is one of my passions, right? Because on one hand, I see the game as a bunch of grown adults running around in small shorts trying to kick a ball in a certain direction, right? It's not that big of a deal. But on the other hand,
AYSO.
exactly. But on the other hand, orange slices at halftime. But on the other hand, you can see that how powerful this game can be and how it can bring people together from all walks of life and how it's a great unifier. And you don't have to speak the same language to understand what's happening on the field. And it's awesome. So I understand the heaviness and the lightness of it at the same time. Now, speaking on that, let's say the heavier side or the more meaningful side of it, not to discount anything I do on the lighthearted side, but I had an opportunity to be involved with USL League 2 team here in San Francisco. I just wanted to be able to give back in a meaningful way. And they thankfully have given me the opportunity to do so. I learned a lot last year. I'm sad that the season got canceled this year to continue to give back, but I'm kind of two minds, and I'd like to think that I'm going to age out of being a clown on camera with my clown nose and clown shoes. And I think the 2026 World Cup, in my mind at this moment, is a nice jumping off point. So I don't have to go Anthony Bourdain my way into rest in peace, but just a great career he had. I used to watch all of his stuff because I really liked how he was true to himself and when he made his stuff. But I think that's a nice jumping off point, and then get into coaching. My daughters will also be a lot older and almost out of high school at that point. So that's kind of what I'm giving you guys my life plan at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I like
that's
it.
Good.
That was the question.
So, so you're coaching USL League 2. Is that format? Is that what previously PDL used to be? Are you getting college guys in their off seasons, or are you paying these guys, or what's the format?
No, you're right. It's the PDL. So it's really an extension of the college season, or pre-pandemic college season, because who knows what the hell is going to happen. And so we get these guys, but they don't. The hard part is at this level, and this is what I needed to know too, and I think this is really important for you guys, especially for you, Benny, because I know you have ideas and you want to potentially get into front office and all that good stuff. I don't know if you've revealed that, and I apologize for revealing it now.
No, you just did.
Okay, sweet.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. But I'd seen the game from an MLS level for many, many years. I've seen the game from the national team level, and I needed to see what it looked like from the lower divisions in this country, and really looking up to see, oh, wow, nobody really cares. They're not really paying attention to this. And how can we bridge that? How can we have conversations? Now, to give you an example, I reached out to Birmingham, Tommy Sohn, who awesome guy, and he brought in one of my players. It didn't work out, but he was very gracious to give him the opportunity. And when I had discussions with him, he's like, we don't look down. We don't look down to find players. We look up to find the ones that are falling through the cracks of MLS. And I thought that was really interesting. And I said, well, how do I give you? I mean, is it all just word of mouth? How do we evolve our infrastructure? Because I have a couple special players that I think could play definitely at USL championship level, but maybe even MLS. But if you're not even looking down and you're always looking up to see what's coming, that has to change. And he agreed, but he's like, we don't have the money to like put a scout that's looking at USL League 2 teams, and I understood that completely.
And we've talked about this, Jimmy, in our podcast before. Like, there's not a lot of MLS teams looking at USL players. I mean, fact of the matter is there's good enough players in the USL that could benefit a lot of MLS teams, and they just don't get that opportunity. So
which was a shame.
It happens. It's a trickle down, right? I mean, every league always looks up to look for the players that have fallen through the cracks instead of, looking in maybe a more 360 type view where you can find players from everywhere.
Well, I think the ones that will, Sal, and that actually take that seriously will end up being the teams that stick around and have like consistency.
For sure.
Now, obviously, a lot of the teams have their own USL championship teams, so
academies and
so that's changing and everything's evolving, and So I don't know. I'm trying to learn. I learned a ton. I mean, I sit on the youth academy stuff with the new MLS Youth Academy League. I don't say anything, man. I just put the headphones on and I just listen because I love being a part of that. I love hearing what's happening and how things are being shaped up. And then eventually I'll position myself as to what I think will be the best position for me moving forward and how I can help really bring players along, because I think you guys can talk about it too. The youth game in this level or in this country seems to be more about making money than it is about proper player development and bringing these players along, not only as players, but also as human beings. Because what, 1% of them are actually going to make it, female or male, to the professional leagues. Well, what happens to the rest, and what can we do to help them fall into it and feel good about the game in a meaningful way? I don't know. One of the things I'd like to implement, and we're talking about it, is at our academy, our older players need to ref younger games so they can get that perspective. And they also need to be an assistant coach for a younger team as well, just so they can understand communication and when they say something, how the player absorbs it, just like they do when they get information from their coach.
Benny would have benefited from that. Dude, refereeing some games.
That like another light bulb in my head after you said that, where that would just improve the referees in our country. That would be good too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit from, as Sal said, getting a 360 view of the game from a lot of different levels. And I think it would probably develop more empathy, which I think we could use in a lot of different ways in this country, and understanding of some of the tough decisions that need to be made as player, referee, coach, all that good stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think I can help improve upon, but also I'm learning a ton too. And that's been great. I love learning.
Good. Well,
you're enjoying it.
I know we talked about it a little bit in the quick hitters, but MLS is back tournament. So that starts, is it in 2 days?
Yeah.
It's on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday, July 8th.
So that's probably the day that this comes out, I think, Sal, or maybe it comes out Thursday. So maybe it'll have already started by the time this hits the airwaves. But what do you expect from this tournament, Jimmy? Like, it's so hard to really know what's going to happen. We've seen the things that have happened already. Obviously, Dallas isn't going to be there. There's talks about Nashville potentially having had some a high number of positive COVID tests, and so what do you first? I guess what do you see happening? And I guess what's the best case scenario?
Well, the best case scenario is that no other teams leave and they get everything sorted out health wise, and hopefully the people that are sick or have been impacted don't take that home to their families and anything serious happens. That is by far the best case scenario. If they have to cancel a tournament to offer that protection, then they should consider doing it. I think there's a lot of money at stake. I know they've put a lot of money just in the production alone. I'm actually quite curious to see, because I read this big article about this big ESPN producer. They're going to have 20 cameras. The mics are going to be all over the place. They're going to really get to try stuff. Some of it's going to hit, some of it won't, but I like that they're going to go for it. So from that standpoint, from a viewer standpoint, I'm actually quite curious. Now, obviously, I don't want anybody to get sick or hurt or any of that good stuff to see that. That said, I think very similar to the NWSL and even the Bundesliga and the Premier League and La Liga, there's a lot of talk. But once the games got started, I think everything started to relax. And if we got through the first game and nobody got sick, nobody got hurt, none of that good stuff, and then I think it'll settle in. That's my hope. I really hope that. I think all the players are probably pretty eager to play. They're there for a reason. They just want to play and then go home, So I think they're going to be pretty eager just to get after it. I don't know, in terms of enjoyment, it seems like the guys are frustrated. I heard, and you maybe guys heard the same thing, that FC Dallas, I don't think, wanted to go home, but there were a lot of concerns from other players on other teams going like, we can't have these guys here,
exactly.
So that just adds a layer of anxiety that I think might trickle on to what we see on the field. Maybe a lot of frustration, because I know when I was playing and I had anxiety, or if I had stress in my personal life, it would play out on the field. And if you have a collective feeling of anxiety, that probably won't lend itself to success. That said, if everything's cool health-wise, I'm excited to see games go again. I just fear that if they don't continue to have a season afterwards, people are going to look back on this tournament going, why did we even do it?
Right.
And I don't know. That's yet to be determined. I guess it'll be up to the USL to set the tone for that.
Yeah. Big burden on your shoulders, Sal. But what I was going to say, I think that maybe something that I don't know if fans realize as well, and I'm kind of curious to know what you think and if you agree, but I think that the fact that that MLS Players Association had some real troubles with this negotiation before this tournament took off, I think a lot of them are a little bit pissed off, and they're showing it now on social media, right? So there's there's the MLS Insider at Orlando or whatever it's called. I forget what the Twitter handle is.
Yeah, just
But
showing all the negative things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything negative that's happening. Some things are things that we see, like those sandwiches are things that you see at away games in MLS sometimes.
Right.
That'll be like your meal, like when you get home or get there from like a long trip, like everything's closed. You get there like at 11 or midnight. That's your like little snack. It's not great, right? So those kind of things happen, but nobody has ever posted that on social media. But now they're posting everything, whether the faucet's falling off and there's a snake, there's, the sandwiches and the menu that says it's like filet mignon or something. So literally they're like, this is bad. I mean, in terms of like what people are seeing, between the ownership, Don Garber and the Players Association and how they feel. And so like, I think that's part of it. Players are kind of like, yes, they're obviously fearful of their health, but at the same time, they're like, I'm kind of sick of like taking the shit and I'm just going to vent at this point as well, And so I'm curious, like, what do you think? You think, you think this is like really a negative thing for the league or I mean,
there's no way around it. It's they're already getting hammered right now. So I think they need these games to get started as soon as possible so that
I agree with that.
So the performance can be analyzed as opposed to, their performance, let's say off the field.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there's a lot at stake. The players union rightfully aggrieved to these last minute changes that MLS tried to do. Especially since they had already come to an agreement on a lot of these things, and for some of it to get pulled back. And then when they thought they were doing a nice gesture, extending an olive branch to find a middle ground, and even that wasn't good enough, then they were being pressured. Yeah, the optics don't look good for MLS right now. And I think the players, you can see it, as you said, Sal, that the frustration is leaking out on social media. And it actually reminds me of early MLS when I was coming into the league. I was like, yeah, that looks familiar. Sandwiches, faucets,
What's crazy to me is like all that stuff. Yes, it's a problem and whatnot, but like really, it's if you're able to play games and if you're getting COVID or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the way the faucet's falling off, like Benny said, that happens on road trips. I mean, it's like they're highlighting certain things that
right. But I think the bigger issue is that the players feel like they gave up a lot to have this happen, which is obviously something MLS and the owners wanted to happen, and so.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what's happening with MLS. I can't even imagine how well taken care of the NBA players are going to be in Orlando. Mom, you're on camera.
Hi, Miss Fiber.
So I think
still living at home, huh, Benny? It must be nice if you're living at home.
Move back. That's what unemployment
money.
But yeah, so I lost my train of thought. But anyways, I think that's going to be, something that people talk about. And I do agree that the games need to start. And I guess my next question would be, once the games start, and let's say hopefully things go well, do you think that this tournament will be what MLS really envisioned in terms of bringing more fans to watch the sport? Hopefully not only for this tournament, but for the long run. Will they, steal some fans or like gain some new fans? Major League Baseball is being played, but they've got issues as well. Who knows if the football season is going to go on with college football, basketball, that stuff. So if it goes well once the games start, will this be as big of a positive as people are imagining for soccer in America?
I don't know how big you think they're imagining. I would say that it's important for MLS to have some visibility. Right now, the optics aren't good. So they're getting negative publicity, but as they teach you in PR school, and I didn't go to PR school, but as I've learned, negative publicity is still publicity. So they're being talked about, and hopefully, and I'm sure they can see are doing some damage control internally that, hey, we'll turn this around once games get started, once the goals start trickling in, once, Pizarro scores for Inter Miami or whoever, that'll be the new narrative, and we can kind of spin that and make it a positive and learn from the mistakes and go from there. But yeah, I mean, they're on the precipice that if more players and more teams get sick, yeah, it's where do they go from there? That's the risk that they're taking.
Yeah. Do you think
So
the
yeah,
tournament?
it's hard, man. It's
Do you think the
hard.
tournament actually finishes? Do you think we get through it?
I do. I think they will. If Nashville does go home and maybe one other team, I just don't know how you can make. It's going to be hard to make it other than a glorified tournament. I know they put a CONCACAF Champions League spot on the line, and I appreciate that. It does definitely raises the stakes, and that what certain points or where you finish will lend itself to the regular season. I just don't know if the season. I mean, they made these decisions when it seemed like there was going to be an upswing. Like we're going to get through this initial wave, and then we'll have our tournament, and then we can have our regular season, do the playoffs, and everything will be cool. Yeah. I don't think everything's going to be cool, and so when you hear. And when you read certain things from The Athletic or whoever is reporting on it on a regular basis, that there's no plan B. Yeah, that's scary, I would say. And I don't know. I don't know. I think the tournament will go through with it. I think they're going to push through. It already seems like they're making decisions to push through. So I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm kind of like where you are. I'm dubious of MLS finishing its season this year. And I'd say the MLS is back tournament, I think it will go on. But I'm like, if like you said, if this continues throughout the start of the games, I think
it's like the Hunger Games, dude. We're like the Hunger Games.
Yeah, it's like last man standing, right?
For me, it's like trying to predict like what the next phase of the economy is going to break into. Like you don't really know. You don't know where it's going to go. Like
buy
in 2 days from now. Yeah, exactly. 2 days from now, there could be 15 more cases throughout the bubble, God forbid, and at that point, they're probably canceling. In my opinion, if a bunch of players are now getting infected, I mean, you can't keep going on with that. So. Yeah. You literally can't predict. It's like trying to just predict who gets COVID or not. You just don't know. You don't know enough about the virus. You don't know enough about, the environment down there to know what it's going to do.
I'm curious about their insurance policy. That thing must be something else, the legalese in that thing. So,
yeah.
All right.
A lot of waivers.
Last question about MLS's back tournament. Let's say, again, it goes on without a hitch and we complete it. Give me your 3 tournament favorites, and give me their odds too, so I know what I can bet on them for with you.
So I think LAFC took a big hit when Carlos Vela said he wasn't going. Yeah, so they went from being.
Although I have a feeling LAFC probably knew he wasn't playing for a long time.
That's fair. Yeah. I agree with you on that. They're not the same team when he's not there. They're not as dynamic. They're a little bit more predictable, I'd say, in the attack. I know they have some special players, but he really makes them tick. So. I would drop them down to maybe 4th or 5th, 6th favorite at this point. I like Toronto FC a lot. There's something about the core players that they got there. I'm a big Greg Vanney fan. I think they're going to have those guys ready to go. So I'd call them maybe a dark horse, Toronto FC. It's going to be hard to get away from Atlanta. I think they're probably one of the favorites, though without Joseph Martinez, they're still maybe not as dynamic, very similar to LAFC. This is a tough one, guys. I don't know. Are the Sounders going to show up in playoff form, where they just kind of run the table? Or
I think it's going to be the teams that usually perform well in preseason are going to be the ones that
I agree.
That's fair.
I agree with that, Sal.
So from that perspective, it's wide open. I mean, I know you guys had Bruce Arena on, and that was a great show, by the way. Nice job with that. And he does a really good job of man managing. I really think he's.
Yeah, they could be good.
He's a guy that knows how to kind of pull the strings. I think I could see the Revolution making a good run. I
could see Red Bulls in their style.
Okay, now your bias is showing.
Kansas City and Portland,
No, but I think Philadelphia was probably going to have a good season. I think they're ready to go, and Sporting, and how many teams?
You literally named every team, dude.
Chivas USA is going to do really well in this tournament.
What's that?
Are you going to give me a top 3 or at least like a top 1?
Yeah, so I'll say Atlanta, Seattle, just because I want to respect the defending champions. And I'll throw Philly in there, man. I think the East is going to surprise some teams. And then Sporting Kansas City. I should throw them in there. That's obvious.
I think, and this is, look, I am an unbiased person. I think Sporting has the best chance to win this tournament.
You got Polito up top. Yeah, that makes a big difference.
I'll explain to you why. I fully agree with Sal that being a good team, like not necessarily just preseason, but in the beginning of a season, Peter will always get these guys ready. So you can eliminate any team that comes in there without motivation. No team without motivation is going to win this thing. Like you're going to be playing with no fans, 10 in the morning, 10 at night. It's like a terrible schedule.
Not even no fans, right? It's not many. Is there even bleachers in these stadiums?
It's like, it's not going to, you're not going to be able to create motivation based on like what you're doing, right? It's either you're ready for it and you're being pushed by like, whether it's the staff or, the way the culture is in your club, or you have it within you, but I think any team that shows up there that doesn't have the mentality of like, look, this is going to be a grind. I mean, you're away from your family for a month or so. There's not a lot of fun going on, and you're playing these games in front of nobody. And so I think whoever's not motivated, that will wipe out at least 50% of the teams, because teams are just there to do a job, responsibilities to be there, get paid, and go home. Now on the other teams, it comes with the heat. Seattle, no. The heat is too much for them. Toronto.
I didn't factor in the heat.
I think that's a problem for Toronto. Any team that doesn't deal really well with heat, I could see being an issue. And then you come with teams that.
So you thought this question through. I'm like on the spot. God, damn.
This is like, but I mean, dude, Jimmy, you and me, like, this is just soccer on the brain nonstop. So I think Sporting has a great chance. Even without Carlos, I think LAFC has a decent chance. But I do think that, without Carlos, that's a massive letdown for them. But they still have, probably a top 3 roster.
Yeah, no question.
So
I bet Houston is a little dark horse.
Yeah, I don't like them, dude. I don't know.
But they train in the heat. They train in the heat.
That's Benny.
So it's all different. Dallas is gone. Dallas could have had a chance, maybe. I think, but yeah,
you're right. Alan Pulido, he was already showing why they signed him, and I'm surprised. I was surprised to see him go. So fair play to Kansas City for getting him. But
who'd be a dark horse for me if they can replicate their beginning of the year form from last year? The San Jose Earthquakes. They were very good at the beginning of last year, but they ran out of gas. If they have that, they could do it. But
I still feel like they're a few players away. I'm in that area, and I follow their team a little bit closely. Yeah, I like Matias Almeida. I hope he stays one more year, because he got left with a few guys whose contracts were guaranteed and they're going to stick through this year. He's gotten the most out of those guys, I think, for the most part, but I think he needs one more year to really tip the scales. But I think there are a piece or two away.
Yeah. What I would agree with you is, Jimmy, is that if the coach is a good motivator, that's half the battle right there.
True. I agree.
That's going to be massive for this tournament, I think.
Yeah. So can I change my order? Sporting Kansas City first, San Jose Earthquakes second, and LAFC third.
That's
wow,
good.
Dude. I am a very persuasive guy.
Very persuasive.
Jimmy, I got a question. So you've been known to post-career build your brand, got a ton of YouTube subscribers.
Jimmy? Come on. No.
What are some ways for us as a podcast that's grown organically at this point? And we're pretty proud of where it's grown to. We've had it for a year now. But what are some ways you think that would help us grow?
I would say collaboration is key. Especially with other people that are in the space, even though they might feel like competitors. I feel in the world of social media, collaboration is really important, because, let's say I'm going to now retweet that. So for people that are unaware of your podcast, I'll be sharing that and then be like, oh, cool, I didn't know that existed. But we probably have a very similar and like-minded audience. Same with the Cooligans and all the other podcasts that you guys named. I mean, getting those guys on would make a big difference and open up your audience a little bit. Outside of that, you just want to be on as many platforms as possible. So, even if you're just sharing little clips that live on Instagram, or you guys are doing funny stories,
Nino better be listening.
I saw you,
Sal.
Belgian. I saw you kind of dive into the TikTok world a little bit.
I did, yeah.
We're doing that now, right? And Nino,
yeah, we were in that, but we haven't really kind of given our all.
Jimmy,
to that,
actually, you're giving us some pretty good advice, and we actually have an open spot for an internship if you'd like to apply.
I'm gonna consider that. What I don't know what the job requires.
We have one member in that position now, but you could be his right hand man. So the right hand man to the intern,
the assistant to the intern. I'm in. Yeah. I'll have to get the details after the show.
Yeah. We'll have Nino email you then.
Yeah, Nino better be listening in. All right, I got one more question before we get into the nitty gritty, as we say. You have anything else, Al?
No, that's good.
All right, my last question, and you kind of went over this a little bit, and I like giving you these questions because you can elaborate and go on your tangents and kind of tell a story. And I even said it here. I want you to tell us this as if you're telling it to your grandkids like one day.
Okay.
So one of your favorite memories, achievements, or unknown story from your playing career that one day you'll tell your grandkids.
So when I was a kid growing up, MLS didn't exist. There was no professional league in this country. So I would go to UCLA games. That was the highest level that I could go see in person. Those guys felt larger than life. Brad Friedel was in goal. Joe Max Moore was scoring the goals. Kobe Jones was running down the flank. Ziggy Schmidt, and he just had this aura about him. And they were at Spalding Field for anybody that knows. I know Benny does, and just the grass was just wet, and it was amazing. I loved it. I love there's only 500 to 1,000.
Is that where they played at before Drake?
That's
Spalding?
Northfield, right?
Yeah, the Northfield.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it was Spalding.
The one
was
that overlooks the steps, Sal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it just was an incredible environment and something that I always wanted to be a part of. So when I got to high school and I was and still going to games and watching them, but I couldn't win my own league. I've won almost every other trophy in this country: youth national team, college national champion, everything, Gold Cup, blah, 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 blah. But I couldn't win my own goddamn high school league because we played against La Cañada, who were the best team in the country for 2 straight years or whatever. So that sucked. But I just couldn't get any notoriety. Nick Panino, I think he went to UCLA as well, but he went to La Cañada amongst a lot of other guys. But I just couldn't get any attention. So I applied to UCLA. I had a 3.8 GPA, got like 1210 on my SATs. I mean, I'm not like a rocket scientist, but it wasn't too shabby. And they told me no. And I got a letter from Todd Saldana, who's now the academy guy at LAFC. And he said, hey, I played really well in a high school all-star game. And so the coach there was like, oh, you should go to UCLA. I was like, yeah, I would love that. So he called Saldana, and Saldana sent me a note saying, if you get accepted, we'll let you try out. I wish I would have kept that note. And I didn't end up getting accepted. So I went down to San Diego State for 2 years and got a lot of experience. But then I called Ziggy cold and said, I want to transfer out. He's like, I don't know who you are. So I go. And one of the things that I did, which was pretty bold at the time, was I went and introduced myself. I went into the offices. I waited an hour and a half and sat there and just waited for him just to introduce myself. So you could see I think as a center back, you need to see size and all that. So I walked in there and I think he thought I was a little crazy, but maybe he also respected how bold I was to do that. And he said, listen, we're waiting on a recruit to decide whether he wants to come or not. It's Danny Califf, by the way. Fun fact. And Danny Califf ended up going to Maryland. So Ziggy calls me and he goes, hey, we'll bring you into school. Your grades are good enough. So stay in school and study, kids. And we'll give you 1 week to try out. We'll give other guys 2 days. I left a full ride at Northridge because they offered me a full ride. I left my scholarship.
So were you still enrolled at San Diego State at this time?
Yeah,
or
I was. Yeah.
Okay.
But I told the coach, who then told me I'm not going to
I'm just going to go to this other college and go train for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So I end up getting into UCLA, and one of my high school teammates got recruited to go, and he was younger than me, so he's a freshman. He's like, hey, just come with me for physicals, okay? I'm giving you kind of some context because it's really important for the end of this. So I go, you go get your physicals, and it's right outside Poly Pavilion and blah, 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 blah. And I got told that I wasn't allowed in because I was a tryout T. So I had to sit in Poly Pavilion by myself for 4 hours. And just sit there. I had no cell phones, right? So I'm just sitting there feeling completely sorry for myself, going, what am I even doing here? But I couldn't leave because I carpooled with my old teammate. And he felt bad for even inviting me. And Paul Crumpy was the assistant who's now the LMU coach. And I just felt like a second-class citizen, man. I was like, I don't know if I should be here.
Right.
And I was feeling pretty bad, but I ended up making the team after 1 week, first walk on. I started the first game of the year, first walk on to do that since Kobe Jones. And then the next 2 years, I was in and out of the team. But there was a thing that happened my junior year. I was kind of like the team mascot. I was like all energy and enthusiasm, right? I'd lead all the cheers and shit. I was that guy. I knew my role. And I got to, when I played, I tried to play as well as I could. And I didn't do great in my junior year per se. But we're in the championship game against Cal for the league title, let's say. We're the number one team in the country. We go up to Berkeley. We're up 4-0. 20 minutes left. We're up 4-0. Everybody else has played but me. So I'm like, probably like puppy dog eyes, tears. My family had driven up to come watch me play. My girlfriend had driven up to come watch me play. I kind of look at Crumpy, the assistant, and he then recognizes that I'm the only one that hasn't played. So he nudges Ziggy. And Zig goes, oh, everybody plays on championship day, And I was like, okay, sweet. So they tell me to warm up. They finally hand me the card, like 7 minutes left. I get all my stuff on. I go hand it to the middle referee. Dude, the ball doesn't go out for 5 minutes. I stood there and waited to get in the game. I just wanted a couple minutes, man, and get it. And I didn't get in. So now I'm ready to cry, dude. But my team just won 4-0. And I can't even look at my parents in the eye, because I was so embarrassed. But I didn't want to make it about me. Of course, we won. We were the number 1 seed. We ended up losing to Fullerton in the first round, by the way, which sucked. But so fast forward to my senior year. Again, I'm a spot starter. The guy in front of me, Kevin Coy, tears his knee 5 minutes into the game. And I'm on the bench. I go in. I knew that Ziggy couldn't replace me. There was nobody better on the bench than me at this point. So I knew that I had his full confidence. He had no other choice. We'd go on to win the national championship. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to get drafted. I didn't get drafted, but I will leave that part of the story out. So let's go to the senior banquet, or the banquet. We win it. Everybody's excited. He talks about all 5 seniors, Ziggy. He leaves me for last. And he then says that if I could pick one player that I've ever coached in my whole career that epitomized what it was like that spoke to what I wanted out of a player at UCLA, it would be Jimmy Conrad. And I was like, what? Is he? This guy got drugs? Who paid him to say that, And for me, that was so meaningful to me. I didn't even know how to respond. I'm still in shock really telling the story, because he never, ever complimented me. He never, ever let on that he actually liked me. And the fact that he would go on to say that meant a great deal to me and to my family, because, man, I was always fighting to just get his attention, fighting to get on the field. But I always tried to maintain a good attitude. And I think if anything I'm going to share with my grandkids is that you have to stay the course, because if I had been bitter anytime those opportunities would have come, I would have missed my opportunity. I would have just been so angry and bitter that I wouldn't have played to my potential. But because I could figure out a way to compartmentalize in some ways, put that aside and just play, that's what really transformed my experience. And obviously what's crazy is the guy that was standing on the sideline that didn't get into that game ended up having the best professional career of any of those players. So they could eat that, bastards. It was me. Yeah. So I ended up outlasting all those guys, but it wasn't easy. And I always try to share that story, even when I talk to kids now, because a lot of they identify with the World Cup, and I was in a FIFA video game or on a cereal box with all the other fun stuff, but not the struggle, man. Everybody wants to skip the struggle. They all want the shortcuts to get to the top. And the big secret is there are no shortcuts. But
yep,
that's my TED Talk. Thanks for having me, Phil.
I have to just add.
Did Ziggy say that you were the best player in
No,
UCLA?
nothing like that. Nothing like that. But there is some similarities, not exactly, but there is some similarities to our stories at UCLA. I was a walk-on as well as a freshman. But the funny story for me that I'll add, because you reminded me of it, was so Chad Barrett was probably, if not the number 1 recruit in my year, he was one of them. I think he won Gatorade High School Player of the Year senior year. And we played against him at regionals. He played for a team in Oregon. I played for a team in SoCal. We played against him at regionals, and I knew that he was going to UCLA. I had made it on to UCLA as a student, and I got told the same thing. If you make it as a student, you can come, you can trial. And I remember asking Chad right before the game started, I'm like, hey, you're going to UCLA, right? And funny enough, he actually, knew this about me, but he said, yeah, I heard that you're going to try and make the team or something. and I remember thinking that, I was like, that was so disrespectful, And that kind of stuck with me. And like, Chad's like an awesome guy. And that's like, just, he's not trying to be, a dick
right. No,
way.
I know Chad as well.
But like, he's just like an honest guy that, says off the cuff things. And it kind of stuck with me. And I think not to make something, bigger than it is, but that drove me to some extent, one, we beat him that game, and we ended up, I think actually we lost in the finals, but we beat him that game. And obviously I made it onto UCLA and played with Chad for a couple of years. And so, it's just funny how like little stories like that drive you and kind of, keep you with that mentality for long years after the fact. So, Yeah, I can.
No, thanks for sharing. You say it's not a big deal, but it was to you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it is
I think
a
it helped
driver,
me,
and it is
for
important
sure.
to you. Yeah, for sure,
Right.
it helped you.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of that as well, and I'm sure Sal can speak to it as well, where you get told.
Sal was highly recruited, dude. Everybody
Yeah, I was
knew
highly
Sal.
recruited. Sorry, guys.
Sal was
man,
the
well.
Chad Barrett talking bad about all the little people.
Yeah, that was me.
Well, Sal can't then piss off, Sal.
Sal had the easy road. All right,
Yeah.
let's do the plead the fifth, dude. Are you,
All right, here
I
we go.
hope
Yeah.
you shake. You getting ready?
I'm ready.
Are you, all right, dude.
Yeah, I'm not
making sure.
scared. I
He's
feel like
not
I'm an
so-
open
That's why he
book.
wore a tank top.
I'm pretty
yeah.
transparent.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, as I always say, without further ado, let's bring you in to Ike's interrogation room. The seat will start to warm up, so fasten your seatbelt and let's get it started. Am I doing the first question?
Yeah.
All right, I got the first question. I'm very new at this, Jimmy. Obviously, you know,
Yeah.
Ike is the pro at this. You're merely amateurs here. So
This
this
could benefit me then. I appreciate that.
It should. First question is actually very easy. I know you don't love talking about yourself so much, so
No, I
ask
don't.
you this.
I'm very humble.
Which one of these two do you consider one of your greatest achievements in your professional career? Scoring against our heated rivals Mexico on a fantastic header to the far post.
I didn't even need to jump. Okay,
No,
go
you
ahead.
you had so
Power
much
header,
torque
snap.
in that neck.
Snap header.
Or a very clean slide on the Lionel Messi.
You know, I like to roll both those clips anytime I get the chance. I will say that there is something very special about getting a clean tackle on Messi because it doesn't happen very often. And you were my teammate in that game, Benny.
Yep.
But scoring against Mexico, yeah, I mean I was man of the match as well. My youth coach happened to be in the stands. There's just a lot more attachment, I think, to that one. And we got our ass kicked by Argentina after that tackle. So
We did.
going out with a win. So I'd say the goal against Mexico.
Dude, Jimmy, we really do have some connections here, by the way.
We do.
Right?
Have you watched that game back? We didn't actually play that poorly. We couldn't combine all that well against Argentina in their half.
So funny enough, that game I passed my best pass in my career to Eddie Johnson, who got the penalty, and Eddie scored off the penalty. We took a 1-0 lead against Argentina, and we kept it, I think, 1-1 for quite a while until the second half, middle of the second half or something.
Yeah,
we both scored a game-winning goal against Mexico.
That's right. Yeah.
So
and we
a lot
both
of
we both
connections.
walk-ons at UCLA. I mean,
That's
it's
what
all
I'm saying.
happening.
Kansas City legends over there.
Right. We both had like great media careers after being with Sporting Kansas City.
I've
I will
already had
say,
a great
though,
media career.
Do you remember that Argentina game?
Yes.
Riquelme didn't tie his shoes for the first 20 minutes of the game.
I mean, he was playing against the USA, he thought.
He didn't tie his shoes for the first 20.
Dude, Riquelme, I mean, what do you want, dude? It's Riquelme. Bless you.
Thank you. Listen. So this is the fun part about that story. You did play a dynamite ball to Eddie Johnson, who I don't think he hit that penalty with as much confidence as I hoped, but it still went in.
No, he hit the penalty well, I thought.
Did he? Okay, all right.
He didn't take a great first touch going into the box, and then he got
that's
battered
what it
from
was.
behind.
That's what
but
it
his
was.
penalty was, I think, really well taken.
So after he scored, I went to Riquelme, I grabbed his arm, and I pointed at him to tie his shoes. Okay? So fast forward like another 10 minutes. There's a free kick, maybe, I don't know, 20 yards off the top of the box. He ties his shoes, and they score. And I was like, God damn. He drops a diamond because Marvell Wynn, who's playing his first cap against Argentina, I don't know why we even let that.
That was some bad defending on our part.
Well, he held the. We probably should have just dropped.
He held
off.
the line. I can't remember. I just remember there was like 8 guys in the box and none of us.
He was like 3 yards behind us. Yeah. Anyway, so Riquelme drops in a dime. They score. I'm like, I probably shouldn't have told the bastard to tie his shoes. But I regretted it afterwards. But it was 1-1.5, and then I mean, you can only play defense for so long against those types of players.
I don't want to pat myself in the back again, but at the under 20s. Just to
there's another similarity you guys have.
Just to confirm these connections. Hey, I took the ball away from Messi 1 out of 10 times as well. So
there you go.
Yeah,
Sal, what was that?
Like,
that was another similarity that you guys
brothers from another mother.
About
dude.
yourself.
That's it.
Oh yeah, that's great. All right, next question. rank these players that you played with
Here we go.
in terms of their coaching ability now. Okay. Let me.
Oh, I'm right.
So we got Landon Donovan.
Landon Donovan. Okay.
Landon Donovan, Josh Wolf,
Okay.
Preki, Ben Olsen, and Davey Arnaud.
Wow, there's a lot of. I thought I was going to get 3. I got 5. Okay,
So 5.
Wolf, Preki, Olsen, and Arnaud.
Davey.
Okay, wow. So
It's tough because you don't have much to go off of some of these guys, but
no, that's true. So wait, I'm rating them based on coaching ability. I want to make sure I understand.
yeah, first to worst, whatever you
First to
feel
worst.
coaching ability.
Or worst to first.
Yeah, however you.
Either
wanna
way,
go.
there's got to be a worst in there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. I feel like. Oh man, I feel like experience might win on this. God, this sucks, man. I mean, we're trying to get me to plead the 5th, right? So I'm gonna go based on experience. I'm gonna say Landon last because he's yet.
Man, I'm gonna have a talk with
You
him.
should.
Man.
Well, you know what? He
Tomorrow,
has.
I'm gonna have a talk with him.
You should. He hasn't done it yet. I know he coached at like the Chipotle All
He's
Star game.
undefeated. He's undefeated.
It's true.
undefeated.
So am I.
Chipotle.
The Chipotle U20 MLS All Star game was Landon Donovan's debut as a manager. That's not enough experience for me. I will say I'll probably put Davey Arnaud 5th or 4th, excuse me, 4th. He had a short stint as the main guy at Houston. They didn't go with him, so I love you, Davey. I'm just busting your balls. And then I would probably put Wolfie 3rd because he has a lot of assistant coaching ability and with the national team and Columbus Crew. Now he's going alone on Austin FC. I think he's going to do great, but yet to be determined, very similar to Landon. Oh man. Number 2. I'll probably go with Preki. I think he won Coach of the Year as Chivas USA's manager, and obviously he was with Seattle when they won it last year. He doesn't seem to last long in places. I love Preki, but he's not for everybody, is what I'm going to say. And then I'll put Ben Olsen on top, actually. I think he's learned a lot during his time as a head coach. They've stuck with him a lot longer than I think anybody, had they, I don't know, maybe been in the running a little bit more, but I think he's done a good job, all things considered. And really the other guys, I'm saying this now, I'm getting really defensive now, but the other guys like Landon and Wolfie in particular, just don't have, that head coaching experience just yet. God, I almost want to go Preki first and Olsen second. Because at least he was MLS Coach of the Year once. I don't know if Ben's been that, but I love Benny. Benny makes me laugh. So did Preki. You know what? I'll just stick with it. I'll stick with my initial thing. I'm not pleading the 5th, you bastards. I know what you're trying to do.
Did you ever play with Peter or no?
I did not. So
you didn't.
When I got traded into Kansas City, Bob Gansler did that to have me replace Peter.
Got it.
So I always felt like I had a target on my back with Peter because I was kind of the guy that replaced him, even though he didn't know me and I didn't know him. But
I wanted.
But I played against him.
We thought about throwing Peter in there, but I didn't think you had played with him, so we couldn't do it.
No, I didn't play with him. Yeah.
All right. Next question. This one's a doozy, but it's not. Not a hard one. But rank these in order of likelihood. So what's most likely to happen to the least likely to happen? MLS season will not be canceled.
Okay.
The United States men's national team will qualify for 2022 without a hitch.
Okay.
Or Jimmy Conrad will one day be the U.S. men's national team head coach.
Wow. Okay, so most likely will happen, I think, will be the men's national team qualifies without a hitch. Let's
hope so.
That's my hope, I guess. I'm just like, there's a lot of hope in this. I think me becoming the men's national team coach is second, kind of in the middle. It won't happen for 2026, though. It'd be a fun one because we're hosting it. Also, a lot of pressure. I'd like to think Jesse Marsh might get the gig at that point if he wants it. I'm a firm believer, by the way, that a national team coach shouldn't have the job for more than one World Cup cycle. Yep. So just to throw that out there so everybody knows where I come from that. And then I don't think the MLS season is going to happen. That'll be, I don't know what order, if I gave you the right, but I don't think that'll happen. So that's most likely to happen. Okay. No, wait, I guess I have to flip that around. Shit.
No, that was right.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
Most likely is USA qualifies without a hitch. Then you'll be coach, and then the least likely to happen will be.
Oh, you're not
MLS
canceling the
season.
That's
is
it.
not canceled.
That's
correct.
right. That's right. Cool.
All right. Fourth question, Sal.
Okay.
We got to get a good one here so you can
Man.
plead,
No,
dude.
I felt like we didn't come up with hard enough ones. But, all right.
The
Jimmy,
last
you've
one will
been
be
known
good.
to-
The last one will be good.
Yeah, you've been known to have a big mouth. Maybe you rub people the wrong way throughout your career.
Who says that?
What teammate can you remember disliked you the most?
Dislike me the most?
Yeah, I'm not going to name players because I don't really know
Oh,
who
man.
hated you. But
I would probably say, Chris Klein jumps out at me. He was my teammate. He's now the president of the Galaxy.
he still hates you?
I don't know if he does or doesn't, but I'd go at him pretty hard for some of the stuff that I thought he was. I give him a hard time. Like, so I could see him being like, he
Right.
might like me, but I think I got under his skin quite a bit. Yeah, I guess it just kind of depends on the perspective. I get along really well with Nick Garcia, but I ended up replacing him on the national team as kind of the guy from Kansas City that was getting called in on a regular basis. So if you kind of look at that type of stuff, I'm sure there's a few out there. I don't know how it's possible.
Dude,
but I'm
Sal,
sure
your
there's a
question is so easy. He's not even answering just one guy. He's just like going through a list
He's
here.
got he's got his board behind him.
No, I got no board. I got no
He's
I got no
crossing.
ill will for those guys, but I just trying to like harken back to stories where, maybe that
Yeah.
guy doesn't like me. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair
All right,
enough.
last question. Let's see if we can make you plead. It's actually a pretty straightforward question. World Cup final 2026. USA's in the final.
Mhm.
It's being broadcasted on ESPN and FS1. Are you
Am I
watching this?
You want me
are
to
you
streak
watching?
it?
Are you watching with John Strong and Stuart Holden as the commentators, or John Champion and Taylor Twellman?
Wow. Okay.
And give me a why too if you're going to answer it, since this is the last question.
Or why you're pleading the fifth.
Champion and Taylor Twellman. World Cup final 2026. John Strong, Stuart Holden, John Champion, Taylor Twellman. This is a coin flip, really. I don't know John Champion at all. I think he's very good at what he does. Taylor was my roommate with the national team. I've got way too many stories that I can't share about that guy, and he definitely does not want me to share. I've known Stu and John Strong. I've worked with both John Strong. I used to do play-by-play, or excuse me, he did play-by-play with the Timbers, and I was color, and I learned a lot from him because I was just starting out kind of in that area. I'll say John Strong and Stu Holden. That didn't take me too long, and the reason is, as much as I have a ton of respect for John Champion in particular, I just think it would be nice to hear American voices calling an American final of that magnitude as opposed to a Brit. And am I a dick for saying that? I don't know, but
I'll say the game against Algeria that Landon scored the goal, Ian Dark does a really good job.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
That was
I mean,
pretty cool.
it was cool. You're right. I mean,
I'll just be the devil's advocate on that.
Sure. That's, like I said, it's a coin flip. You could go either way, and I think you could make a case for both of them. But I'm sure John Champion and now Taylor Twellman are going to hate me for life. But I'll go with Strong and Holden.
All right. You
All
can throw
You answered
Taylor
him.
Twellman in the Chris Klein bucket then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Chris Klein. You have to ask Kleiner if he hates me or not. But
We'll get him on. We had Jovan Karofsky a few times back, so maybe we'll get Klein on there too.
Yeah. He probably doesn't even remember. Or maybe he does.
Who's
Maybe he
Jimmy
does.
Conrad? Is that what he's
Exactly.
gonna say?
That would be amazing. I hope and if he does, can you send me the clip? I would love that. I love being belittled. It's amazing.
Well, well done, dude. I don't think we
didn't stitch me up.
Ike's. No, we didn't do Ike's interrogation justice. He usually comes up with some better questions than we do. Like I said, we're amateurs still at this, but you've done well. You've answered all 5 questions. You are off the hot seat. Now mine and Sal's seat might get a little warm because you are entitled to ask us one question of your choosing.
My question is, Sal, I'll start with you. If you could do a podcast with one person and one person only, would it be Benny or Ike?
Oh, man. Well, I
And
gotta
you have to
hold
explain
true.
yourself.
Hey,
I gotta
my
hold
papers are
true.
about to be written over here. My resignation papers. So.
Yeah. No, I gotta stay true to the OG. So Benny and I have a longer history, although Ike's been great, and he's been a great addition to the team.
I wish Ike was here, by the way.
Yeah, I know, right? I gotta stick with Benny, right? I mean, I was his what's the guy from the Jimmy Fallon show and all the late night shows? I can't even
like
think
a
of one
right-hand
of those
man.
sidekicks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sidekick. Yeah.
on the
Kevin
keyboard for
Eubanks
the
from
Benny
Jay
Fowler
Leno.
show.
Kevin
Yeah, there
Eubanks.
we go. So yeah, I'd say I gotta stay true to Benny on that. But I love you, Ike. Miss you.
Cheers,
Come
Sal.
back, please.
Come back soon. Okay. All right. I feel like I probably knew the answer to that, but I wish Ike was here. That would have been a little bit more pressure, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Benny, for you, who's the? I guess I kind of just want to know out of curiosity, who's the best coach you ever played for and why?
Ooh, that one's tough. I mean, it's between
'Cause you
Bob
played for-
and Peter.
Okay, not
I
Ziggy.
think-
Ziggy wouldn't be in there.
No, Ziggy was too short of a time, man. I mean, I had Ziggy through the under 20s. It was just, I mean, it's not long enough for me to really, say he's up there. But Peter and Bob, both guys that got the best out of me, and in very different ways. Peter's a guy that pushed the right buttons, motivated me, got me to do things that I didn't love to do.
Like what? Defend?
Not
Got
only
him.
defend, but like not take moments off in the game.
Yeah,
And
I
that was like
understand.
my biggest thing, right? And so, the pressing scheme when I came in 2013 was crazy to me. I mean, obviously he took me out of the lineup for a while, but it got me playing, better soccer than I ever had before. Obviously my stint in Kansas City was the best 5 years that I've played as a professional. And then Bob, the funny thing is with Bob is that with the national team, I think he was a great coach with the national team, but me individually, he had a much bigger impact on me in my 1 year at LAFC than with the 4 years that I had. Obviously, you're not with him every day, but the 4 years that I had with him on the national team.
I heard he changed a little bit from those national team days to now.
So the only thing, I mean, he did change in terms of like the things that he approached as a coach. I just don't know if that's something that, he changed just, by learning from playing, coaching in certain areas and different places. And as you grow, you learn, whether you're a player or a coach or whatever. Or if it was more of like with the national team, you have less time, and so you can't emphasize some things that he really emphasized with LAFC. And so I've talked to him about this before, and that's something that really, really helped me. Man, it's tough. If I had to pick one, I would say.
Wait, so if you don't plead the fifth, you get to ask me another question. Does this never end?
I won't plead the fifth. If I really had to pick one, and look, it's really is a toss up because both of them are different coaches, but both got the best out of me. I'll go with Bob because for me, Bob is a little bit more of like the cerebral coach, where Peter is more of like an amazing motivator. Don't get me wrong, Peter knows his tactics in soccer. And
I played for him before. I played for both of those guys.
But yeah, Bob like thinks in a way of soccer where it also is a way how I am. I think if I'm ever a coach, I won't be like as good of a motivator as Peter is. But I think I can kind of go in the route of where Bob is like that cerebral guy that sees the game, tries to get people in the right position, tries to get the best out of each individual player for the betterment of the team. And so I can see me being a little bit more closely like Bob is when I become a coach than Peter. But obviously, like I said, it's a toss-up, man. Both those guys were instrumental in my success as a professional soccer player.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on my show, Benny. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tough
Jimmy,
question,
it was
dude.
great.
Tough
It was a
question.
great time.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Sal.
Anytime you want to have us on, you let me know.
You guys are amazing. I appreciate it.
Jimmy, seriously though, awesome, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Always a fun guy to talk to. You got loads of stories, and honestly, we're getting to the point where we might have to do some repeating guests here. We've had some really good ones, so you're on that repeating guests possibility. So
Thank
just
you.
be aware.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made the cut, man.
Yeah, Jimmy. Really appreciate you getting on, spending some time with us, and maybe we'll chat sometime soon again.
Yeah. Please give Ike my best and good luck not getting COVID,
All right.
Sal. I wish the best
Thanks,
for you.
guys. I really hope so.
All right, Jimmy, have a good one, dude. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Jimmy Conrad on the show. What a guy. Lots of crazy stories.
Yeah.
I felt like one of his grandkids there when he was telling that last one.
and it was pretty extraordinary seeing him in his whole podcast little room that he has built in his house. It felt like
That's
we were
right.
on his podcast, as we mentioned throughout the show. But yeah, I mean, we didn't get too much into his career because Jimmy's the type of guy that has a lot of opinions on current soccer that's going on in the world right now. So it was pretty cool to get his hot takes.
Yeah, man. He's definitely a storyteller. So going forward, we're gonna have some guys that are playing in the MLS's back tournament.
Yeah, so we're gonna have some access to the bubble through our podcast.
It'll be
so,
interesting.
yeah.
Hopefully those teams. So Dallas obviously is gone. So hopefully the teams that, the guests that we have coming on don't get kicked out of the tournament yet. So we can at least ask those guys some questions about, playing in front of no fans in Orlando, those weird time, 10 a.m., 10 p.m. There's some weird games going on time wise, and it'll be interesting to have, their opinions on the matter.
It'll be interesting to see, if it's almost as bad as everyone's kind of claiming that it is on Twitter, right? Because that's the vibe that everyone's kind of feeling right now. So we're gonna get the true inside story.
We need to do is find out who is running the MLS Insider for the Orlando tournament and get him on the show.
Yeah,
because that's some exclusive content
that's
there.
True.
But
that's true.
We're excited about the guests coming up. You guys should be as well. And I think that's it. That's all we got for today, right, Sal?
Yeah, guys, stay tuned. The next few episodes should be fun.
All right. Thanks a lot for showing up today, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.